Welcome to the Taproom exclusive here on July 9th, 2019. I am your host, Dean Zarbaugh. Today's show is brought to you by House of Helga. Are you a brewery looking for some vibrant, stunning artwork to slap on that freshly bottled or canned beer? Contact House of Helga for all your design needs. They've worked with Masthead, Streetside, and yours truly here at the Taproom exclusive. Check out Kyla's entire portfolio of incredible work at houseofhelga.com. On today's show, I chat with Bascule Brewery's brewer Chris Kambouris over their tasty white New England IPA, Call Me Ishm'ALE. Before we get into that, be sure to join Bascule Brewery in Broadwave Studios tonight, July 9th, and every Tuesday for Bascule Jams from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is the best jam on the west side of Cleveland, hands down. Come enjoy some great Bascule beer and killer food from Barrique and Joe's food truck. So bring your axe and some friends to Bascule Brewery tonight. Karaoke more your thing? Well, then check out Bascule Karaoke every Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at 1397 Colorado Avenue, Lorain, Ohio, 44052. Also, Heinen's in Avon is hosting a Columbus Brewing Company tasting from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 11th. I will be on hand serving samples until 5 p.m., and I will be enjoying samples from 5 p.m. until 6 p.m. Remember, each sample is 25 cents per Ohio law. Come join the fun and try a freshly tapped collaboration between Columbus Brewing Company and Heinen's called Hoppy 5th of July, a hoppy wheat ale. I was reading an article on NPR the other day, and I'll include the link in this episode's post, that talked about the growing buzz surrounding non-alcoholic craft beer. This is a subject I've brought up to brewers both on and off air, and I understand the limitations in smaller breweries dedicating tank space for an NA beer. On the other hand, one of my best friends is sober, and I would like to see more NA options so he can sit down and have a beer with me that isn't an O'Doul's or a Coors. He wants to give his money to a local business rather than Budweiser or Miller Coors, just like the rest of us. Brewdog's Nanny State Non-Alcoholic Hoppy Ale is one of my fastest NA sellers at work, and now I see this article on NPR highlighting craft breweries that are focusing solely on brewing NA beers, so I definitely know there's a market out there for NA craft, and I would love to see it grow from my friend. What are your thoughts? Should Ohio breweries get on the NA craft train? Chime in on Facebook.com/The Taproom Exclusive or on Twitter @Taproom Podcast. I would love to hear your thoughts. Also, Destination Cleveland has released the 2019-2020 Cleveland Brewery Passport. Included this year are the same 30 stops as last year with 4 new additions: Southern Tier, Cornerstone Brewing, Bookhouse Brewing, and the soon-to-be-open Funkin' Ship Platform Sour facility, bringing the final total this year to 34 stops. I've already got a few stamps myself. I'm trying to be better prepared than last year. Be sure to grab your 2019-2020 passport at any of the participating breweries today. You have until June 30th, 2020 to complete the passport. This year, the prize tiers have changed. With 8 stamps, you get a coaster set. After 20 stamps, you get a Cleveland Brewery Passport pint glass. And after 34 stamps, you'll get a Cleveland Brewery Passport t-shirt showcasing the 2019-2020 participating breweries, and you'll be entered in a contest to win a weekend getaway in Cleveland. Each tier must be redeemed as they are completed at the Cleveland Visitors Center located at 334 Euclid Avenue and not at the breweries. What was your favorite stop on the Passport last year, and which of the new stops are you most looking forward to visiting for the first time? Let me know on Facebook.com/The Taproom Exclusive or on Twitter @Taproom Podcast. All right, here it is. Me and Chris Kambouris, brewer for Bascule Brewery and Public House in Lorain, Ohio, chatting in their fermentation room about their white New England IPA, Call Me Ishm'ALE.
Too crazy from the start, too smart for that wrong good. Not really knowing if it would work, but believing that it would. Taking all of the time they didn't really have to get they found the strength they didn't know they had. Years go by, as if it were a day. Memories piled up like firewood along the way.
Bascule Brewery fermentation room, where if you hear a little low buzz behind you, that's normal. It's supposed to be there. I'm with Chris Kambouris, brewer for Bascule Brewery. I keep wanting to say Bascule Bridge every time, but I don't. So, but that is in the name. The Charles Berry Bascule Bridge is the second largest Bascule style bridge in the world, isn't it?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, we boast the second largest Bascule Bridge in the world, and little known fact, minus the towers, it is like a twin bridge to the famous London Bridge.
Is it really?
It is.
I did not know that.
Watch an episode of Danger Mouse. You will see that.
I will have to do that. I've been meaning to catch up on a lot of things in that.
Or Benny Hill.
There you go. I have seen Benny Hill a lot of times. So Bascule started, you guys opened August 7th, 2018, somewhere around there? Well, it was when the license got approved.
That sounds right to me. I know, actually, we got our production license June 28th. That's the one date I can keep straight in my head. As far as when the tap room opened, I want to say closer to August, yeah. So we are nearing a 1-year anniversary of the tap room opening, which has been huge for us, because before that it was like trying to sell growlers out of the back,
right?
And trying to scramble to brew one keg at a time per account. So that would be pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's cool to see you guys here in Lorain.
Thank you.
I didn't know until I was actually here. This is actually my first time here. I've had your beer before.
Nice.
And we've talked before, obviously, but this is my first time in this physical building. I did not know that no one had brewed in Lorain County, in Lorain specifically.
Lorain
City, in over 100 years.
Well, so I want to clarify that. We are the first brewery to begin operations in over 100 years. So I don't want people, fact-checking us and be like, well, they're a bunch of liars.
I mean, technically,
we are a bunch of liars, let's make no mistake, but we are the first to begin operations in over 100 years. It's an honor, and I mean, we never set out to be any kind of first. It's a nice little feather in our cap, but it's certainly not what defines us. I think there's a lot more to us, I guess you could say, bragging rights than just being the first brewery in Lorain.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You guys are doing some really good stuff here. You come from a pretty big brewing history. You've worked at Brew Kettle before and Mount Carmel Brewing down in Cincinnati. What was it that brought you back up to Lorain?
Fred Lozano, the Lorain native whose roots go very deep in Lorain. So essentially, Fred and I met through Facebook through my ex-wife.
Okay.
And I had just came back from brewing at the Brew Kettle, brewing at Mount Carmel. I was a stay-at-home dad, so I was occupying as much time as possible, trying to keep fresh on my chops as a home brewer.
Right.
And Fred was following all that on social media, and so he reached out to me and asked if I would come give my opinions on what would be necessary to open up a brewery in Lorain. And I was, it's the opportunity that I want to say I've been trying to position myself for since the time I even, turned down a job at General Motors to be a brewer. I was looking for something to do at the ground level, and Fred provided that opportunity. And if you were in that car ride when he first showed me going over the Black River, showing me 28th Street where all the steel mills are, showing me his old stomping grounds, you would have thought that he was giving a tourist his most beloved tour of France or some major city in the world, and it hit a soft spot in my heart because being from Youngstown, being from a former steel town, pardon me, I've always had a soft spot for cities that are trying to reinvent themselves.
Yeah, and Lorain is perfect for that right now. I grew up down in southern Lorain County in a small town called LaGrange, and to see the revitalization going on around not only Lorain but Elyria and all these Lorain County cities, it's really awesome, and it's nice to see that craft beer is kind of at the forefront of that.
I mean, to me it's surprising, but not surprising.
Right.
I think Lorain is no vacuum. It's no exception to the rule. Beer has been with us for millennia. There's no reason why it shouldn't work in a little town like Lorain. If anything, there's more reasons for it than against it. Beer is one of those things that does well in a struggling economy as well as a thriving economy.
Right.
And beer also has the special, I guess you could say, gift or privilege of being able to attach, certain identities to it. There's almost a certain terroir that you can attach to it. And I think with a town as dynamic and unique as Lorain, the inspiration for the beers, it just kind of happens on its own.
Yeah, and you guys do a lot of local stuff. We're drinking the Me Ishm'ALE right now. This is a really good beer.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
It's a white NEIPA. So for somebody who comes in and sees that on the menu, not something that you normally see white before NEIPA, what makes it different than just a quote-unquote NEIPA?
Well, I would actually say, you almost have to go back a little bit with me when it comes to style guidelines and trends and whatnot. I kind of don't necessarily, subscribe to a T, things like the BJCP's style guidelines, but they are a great guideline. And when I was brewing the Call Me Ishm'ALE, what I was essentially setting out to do was, okay, we know what a New England style IPA is, but do we know what a New England IPA is? In other words, if you want to think about what the IPAs must have tasted like back in colonial times,
right.
New England being, of course, where the birthplace of our nation,
right?
I really wanted to try and tap into some of those really old world flavors. So I used hops like ancestors of some of the original hops that came over with the colonists. So Nugget being one of those. I'm trying to think of the other one right now, and I'm drawing a blank on it. But as far as a white NEIPA, actually, NEIPAs are kind of a very loose style guideline on their own. You can achieve that haze through a number of methods. Wheat being one of those. I used a high percentage of wheat in this beer to try and bring out that opaque creaminess, as well as just as taking some creative liberty on that. I used a high amount of lactose in that as well, just to bring out some of that sweetness as well. So the end result is a very pineapple-y, citrusy, but a little kind of like a resiny, flavor. But again, my beers don't quite taste like if you were to head over to Cleveland. I love the beers in Cleveland, but my beers kind of stand out from theirs just a little bit in the sense that I'm brewing the way your grandmother cooks, a pinch of this, dash of that, not so much necessarily, attending a seminar on water chemistry.
Right, not like 3 grams specifically of Simcoe.
Right, so my beer is not going to have a whole lot of bitterness. It may not be like the make your head explode type of zingy citrusiness, but it's enough for you to know that you're drinking an IPA.
It's got a nice citrus front to it. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it really does. This is actually the second one I've gone to. I was drinking the hop waters first, and just wanted to try the two different and see how different they were, and both of them were fantastic. But I mean, it's different enough that it stands out in the classification of any IPA.
I think it's a beer that you want to have a second one of.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Its finish is so smooth too. It's got that nice creamy kind of smoothness to it on the mouthfeel at the end.
Right. In case you don't hear me nodding my head, I'm nodding in agreence to everything.
Yes, this is an audio medium. No one can see that. Audio. I've had a couple, like I said. What was the inspiration behind this specific? Like you say, you don't chase styles, and you don't want to necessarily be the quintessential NEIPA as far as BJCP goes.
Right.
What was the inspiration behind doing a white NEIPA?
Well, again, I think, first of all, any home brewer, one of the first things he learns about hops is, the earlier you add your hops, the more bitterness you extract. The later, the more flavor and aroma you get, and so I think that's kind of what drove people to start to really expound upon this NEIPA style to begin with. It was like, wow, look at all these amazing flavors you can get just by focusing on more of the flavorful hops, not so much the bitterness. It's not about IBUs. And when I first had my first NEIPA, it blew my wig off like everyone else.
Yeah.
So as far as the inspiration from behind me doing it was more or less just kind of like a, can I do this? And it's just fun to try new things, but it falls in line with what Bascule Brewery is all about. We try to brew as though we've been here the past 100 years. It's kind of like the logic behind a lot of what we do here. Being as Lorain is a town that's trying to rediscover its identity, last thing we wanted to do was just plop down in here as some anonymous, company with flashy signs and big, bright, flashy tap rooms and say, here we are, give us your money. We wanted something for people to latch onto. So we wanted to grow as though we were, let's just imagine that, a ship, landed on the shores of the Black River, and here's 200, 300 people that just unloaded the ship. Okay, who knows how to do what? Okay, you be the blacksmith, you be the butcher, the baker. All right, who knows how to make some beer? We're going to need some beer, and that is the approach that I took with a lot of our styles, our names, our ingredients. I really tried to emphasize what identifies us as a town, as though nothing else existed yet.
Yeah, it's really cool. In theory, I mean, really, there hasn't been anything around here in so long. It's so nice to see that there's places like you coming in and revitalizing this community. I mean, it needed it.
Everything has been very fortuitous with us, very serendipitous. I mean, I remember the very first time we walked into a local pub and eatery here on Broadway, Scorchers, and happening to make acquaintances with Kurt and Paige of Speak of the Devil, who at the time were only, conceiving the idea of doing a speakeasy in downtown Lorain. And looking where Lorain is now versus where it was the 2 years ago when 3 years ago that wait a minute, I'm sorry, 2015 is when we conceived this. Sorry, math is way off. So
time is a tricky thing.
Right, yeah, it tends to slip away with all these beers, but we are definitely honored to be amongst some pretty good company. I mean, when you look at Brew and Stew, when you look at Boriken, that is opening up across the street from Uniontown Provisions, when you look at Borders Board Game Cafe, when you look at even some old fixtures like Fligner's that are just doing it for a century. Lorain is what you make of it, and I'm lucky that there are so many other people in this town that see it the way I do, that you can't just look at it for the face value, for the hard times. You have to look at it for the fact that it is a city of assets that no matter what economic strife you go through, it remains the same. We are on the lake. We are on a great body of water. We're on a very valuable river that is essential to the town's survival. The people here are stalwart. They are as loyal and as friendly as you can get. My mother from Greece, and I'm talking old world Greece, World War II Greece.
Wow.
When she comes to visit Lorain, she says it reminds her so much of old world Europe, of how people bend over backwards to make sure you have enough for yourself. And that's what Bascule Brewery has been greeted with.
The fervor for what from your fans for supporting you is some of the most insane, and I mean that in a good way, that I've seen for a brewery in a long time. I mean, like, you go out and someone overhears you say Bascule, and they've been there. They're like, oh yeah, Bascule.
They're not wearing the clown makeup, right? They're not like juggalos
not.
or anything.
No. But
Trademark.
it's to cover ourselves. Last thing I want is to be sued.
Right.
But it's nice that you have that sort of backbone to you guys, that when you guys started, there was a lot of crowdfunding involved. There was a lot of other stuff, and it makes people feel a
more
really big part of the place. Like they had a hand in, like, hey, I helped.
Yeah.
I didn't brew the beer, but hey, I helped make it happen.
Right.
I'm the reason that people can brew on premise.
That is 100% what we were aiming for. I mean, 50% of it was out of necessity, and Fred and I are both, we're both divorcees. We don't have deep pockets, but we know what resonates with people, and so, I always tell people the story that Given the chance to do it over again, if someone was to write me a check for $1 million, I would turn it down, because the climax to, and I'm not knocking anybody who goes this route.
Right.
We had to do it out of necessity, but I love it. It has helped us to forge a very unique experience for our patrons. But I would do it all over again, simply for the fact that the climax to, I got approved for the loan, isn't as exciting as, hey, I know 90% of the people that walk in my door, and I could find their names on our supporter wall, or I could pick out the furniture that they donated, or hey, that's the guy that built our bar,
right,
or helped install our cooling system, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah, it's really cool. You walk in this place and everybody's like, "Oh, there's Chris." They really feel like they're a part of this place.
I'm kind of the phones.
Yeah, you kind of are. The stuff wasn't working earlier. He hit it. It worked perfectly. It was great. It was. I couldn't believe it. It was.
I had to have a talk with Cunningham. And,
come on,
fun.
Richie, come on. But if someone were coming here, you guys do food trucks every so often here. If somebody's drinking the Call Me Ishm'ALE, what would you suggest some of your favorite food trucks?
Oh my God.
Something to eat with, maybe.
We have been blessed with some of the best food trucks. Going all the way back to Pierogi Joe's. I mean, Lorain has such a strong Polish population. I mean, look at Kudrowski's,
right.
Kudrowski's Bakery. They helped us out when we were doing our New Orleans themed. There was a little passport program that was going on with Lorain County. They were doing beignets for us,
nice.
and oh my God, Kudrowski's! I could not have met a nicer group of people. We have Borican Joe, who, of course, you would be remiss to overlook the Hispanic community here in Lorain. They're just such a bright, awesome, vibrant culture. And then, now you have what we have right now, which is Steel Magnolia, which is a very recent, addition for us. She is producing everything from soul food to Jamaican, Caribbean food, to, it's a very eclectic menu. Anytime Any Plate has just knocked out some of the most amazing, speaking of eclectic, menus, brunches. You can come in and have, filet mignon, as well as you could have, just a fancy grilled cheese sandwich from these guys. We've had just some really great food trucks in here, and they've been essential to our success.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to get about the Call Me Ishm'ALE before we head out?
It's limited. We're going to be moving on to the Cocoa Mango here. It's Cocoa Mango season. We're going to be going into Brewfest here very soon, which I believe is August 10th.
Yes.
We're looking forward to that. This is going to be our third year, I think, to be part of this. And each year we've been, it's just been fantastic. The excitement has grown ever more. I want to give a shout out to, Franklin and Howard Ross for everything they're doing to promote that. The other beers we have coming out here, we're going to be serving our Big Bottom Berliner Weiss, which is another favorite, another cult favorite. It's always the same base Berliner Weiss, but we always mix it up with the flavors.
Nice.
Last year we did a mojito version of it. This year we're actually going to be collaborating with an up-and-coming brewery called Unplugged Brewery in Elyria. We're going to collab with them and do we're going to do a spin-off of their Berliner Weiss, which is a peach Berliner Weiss. We're going to do a peach mojito version of our Berliner Weiss. And then trying to think what else. And then, we always have our standards, Charleston Common, Steam Power Dream, and our Porter and Hop Waters.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and tune in next week for another all-new episode here at Bascule Brewery.
You got